I'm Anna Urban, and this is the Wildly Different podcast. I'm going to talk about all the wildly different takes out there on ADHD, neurodivergence, spirituality, manifestation, the meaning of life, trauma, shame, joy, purpose, and of course, all the actionable, practical strategies from the super scientific to the super esoteric. Some episodes will leave you with more questions than answers, but that's exactly the point. Is ADHD a disorder or a gift? Are we here to hack our time or maybe even to reimagine what productivity looks like entirely? How do we get ourselves to do the things we say we're going to do, even when every cell in our body would rather do something else? Are we neurodivergent, or are we aliens from Atlantis sent here to evolve humanity? Are supplements a scam? What's the deal with ADHD meds, and why do we have so much drama about it? If any of these questions resonate with you, then you've come to the right place. Let's get untamed. Welcome back to the Wildly Different podcast. I'm Anna Urban. This is part 2 of my 4-part series on getting to know yourself and aligning your life with what actually matters to you, which matters a whole heck of a lot for those of us with ADHD who have an interest-based nervous system. So in the last episode, I talked about identifying your core values and why that is so important. So if you haven't listened to that one yet, go back and listen to that core values episode, because I talk about not only why it's important and what suffers in your life when you don't know what your core values are, but also how to do it, like how to show up fully in your life and how to figure out what your core values are. Today, we're going to talk about how to prioritize your time according to those core values, because knowing what your core values are is great, but what if you know what they are, but you're not using them to guide how you spend your time? You're just adding more like theoretical knowledge to your ADHD brain, and that doesn't help. So the whole point here, my core message to you today is time management isn't about getting more done. It's about getting the right things done. So I want you to think of your time as a bucket. If you fill it with a bunch of things that don't matter to you, you're going to run out of room in the bucket. There's actually an analogy, I can't remember who shared it, but it's where you fill your bucket with a bunch of rocks, right? And the rocks are like the things that are the most important to you. And then at the end, you can add in the pebbles and they will fall through the cracks. So that's a really good way of looking at this. It's like, how can you start with the things that matter the most before you start giving your time to other people? Because if you don't decide what's important to you, other people will decide for you. So your ADHD brain will default to random crap when it's not clear to you, when it's not clear to your brain what's really important. So for this episode, I want to leave you with this mindset reframe. When I prioritize my values, my time prioritizes itself. I want to say that again. When I prioritize my values, my time prioritizes itself. Without clear priorities, everything feels equally urgent, equally important. Your brain gets scattered, overwhelmed, right? Suddenly you're knee deep in a rabbit hole of organizing your spice rack instead of working on that business idea that you actually care about, or instead of going on that run that you wanted to go on. But when you're clear on your core values, you've got a compass. You've got a roadmap. Decisions get easier. You know where to direct your energy. So let me give you a real life example. One of my core values is ease and simplicity, and I apply this to all areas of my life. Parenting, business, maintaining my home. If I find myself overcomplicating business tasks, like spending hours writing a podcast script or spending hours perfecting a social media post, I ask myself, does this align with ease and simplicity? Usually the answer is a big fat no. So I stop, I simplify, and then I hit publish, or I hit send, and I move on with my life, or I hit record, like I'm doing right now. So I had a conversation with a Untamed member the other day who took the core values assignment very seriously. And she came back to me and she said, Anna, I understand what my core values are, but I'm still doing the exact same thing. And I said, okay, it's one thing to know what your core values are. It's another thing to actually take action on it. So she was struggling with decluttering. And I said to her friend, is one of your core values hemming and hawing about what to get rid of? No, it's not. One of her core values was creativity. Is overthinking one of your core values? No, it's not. That is where the work lies. Like, it's one thing to know your core values, but it's another thing entirely to actually take action on it. And that is your work. That is the work of getting wild, of getting closer and closer to your untamed self. It's taking the action. It's doing the uncomfortable thing of aligning your actions with your core values, with the things that light you up. Okay, so here's how you can apply this to your own life in very practical terms. How you prioritize your time based on your core values needs to start with externalizing what's up here in your brain. So you have to literally take what's in your brain and dump it. Do like a big thought clearing. And it doesn't have to take long. You can put a timer on for 5 minutes to just stream of consciousness write down the things that you want to do, that that are important to you, whatever it is. And then look at that list. Look at what's on that piece of paper. Ask yourself, or on that Google Doc or that spreadsheet or however you want to go about it. Does this align with my core values? And you can do like a little yes, no, maybe, right? A Y, N, M, right? You don't have to figure this all out right away. It gets to be a process. It gets to be a journey, right? But you do need to externalize it. It needs to be, so with ADHD brains, we struggle with prioritization because we tend to keep things up here. We need to actually visibly see it. One of my strategies that I really love using too is Post-its. But if you write each individual item on a Post-it, it's like something that you can hold in your hand and you can move things around. You can put them into categories. So that is also another way of externalizing things, right? You can group things based on categories or level of importance. So number 2 is to use your core values as a decision-making tool. So use it as a filter, right? When you're faced with a choice, whether it's taking on a new project, saying yes to an event, or figuring out how to spend your weekend, I want you to ask, is this aligned with my core values? If the answer is no, then allow yourself the discomfort of grieving it, right? If it's hard for you to say no, there are some things in life that we're going to have to grieve, right? And then number 3 is to catch yourself when you're defaulting to busy work. When you notice yourself doing low priority tasks, like cleaning out the junk drawer, check in. Check in. What is something that I can do right now that serves my core values? If you feel like you've, quote unquote, wasted the day doing things that don't matter, allow yourself the gift of a restart no matter what time it is, even if it's 8 p.m. Allow yourself the gift of pursuing your core values in that moment. In that moment. And I know that this is hard for people who struggle with black and white thinking, like, no, I need to start I need to start in the morning, or I need to start next week, or I need to start on the first of the month, whatever it is. You will always come across those same tests, those same situations, so long as you don't confront them. Make it a practice of starting over in the middle of the day, and it will become easier and easier and easier to do so. So I want to end with this. When you prioritize your values, your time naturally prioritizes itself, but you have to be the one to take the action to align your time with your values so that you're not just going about your day by default. In the next episode, we're going to talk about what happens when your plans get derailed. When, let's say, your ADHD is ADHDing, or when a kid gets sick or doesn't nap, or, somebody is late on something. Like, what do you do when your plans get derailed? Because they will. It's inevitable, right? So how to stay grounded and aligned when life throws you curveballs. All right. You got your work cut out for you. Now go get wild.